Hey Cactus friends, it's Jenny from Cookies Cacti. So this is kind of a unplanned update. I'm feeling a little bit down today, to be honest, and it's caused by multiple things. Well, if you're wondering about how that rust fungus is doing, I can't really say. It's all over the place. So I did continue treating it with the sulfur powder and that bacillus-based treatment, and then I just went with copper fungicide, something even stronger. On some plants, it's getting worse. If I really zoom in there, see, it still looks like it's active, spread all over the plant. Let me show you the coryphantha. Still looks pretty bad. And this one you can see the little dots. And it has managed to kill some of my astrophytum seedlings. Let me show you. So the astrophytum seedlings that have pretty much reached the point of no return are my astrophytum coalescens. You see, these holes started to develop on the plants. I'm guessing it's the fungus, eating its way into the plant. And I'm noticing it on other astrophytum as well. But this, like when I squish it at the base, it's just, this is already, it's a goner. And I think I've had at least 2 or 3 that I've thrown away already. Here's an example of that. I think this was in my thumbnail for that one video on the fungus. And you can see on this side, it's starting to eat its way, I think, into right at, what was that? It's almost like a seam of the plant. Oh, here's another example. Look. And there's more like that. The ornatum got hit pretty hard as well. Let me show you. Go over here. You see that hole? Developing. So today has felt kind of like a down day. And it's not only about the plants. I'll show you the other reason in just a little bit. It's already warming up. It's like in the 70s now for the highs, and the lows are now in the 50s. And on the plus side is that some of these plants are clearly in another, entering another growth cycle. So according to these Copiopoa, it's spring. So that's nice. And I think that with the warmer weather, drier weather, the rust will also naturally stop just from the weather itself. But, it still feels bad to lose seedlings. And I'm getting a lot of comments on videos now. I'm having a really hard time keeping up with them. It takes a lot of time to respond to everybody, and I really apologize for being slow, but I'm at the point where it is really hard to keep up with comments. So you might see 3 weeks later I respond. So do bear with me on that. I still want to try to reply to everybody, but with everything going on, and you all know that I only have so much time to spend on YouTube, it's getting really hard to manage and to keep up with it, but I'm going to try anyway. On that last video for the fungus outbreak, there were a lot of comments and suggestions on having or building a structure that would be weatherproof, with solid walls and solid tops. I am quite restricted in the kind of structure I can put in my backyard because we do have city code and city ordinances. And it's possible that my structure here is already in violation of it, but my neighbors are nice enough not to report me. So I cannot put up, a more formal greenhouse. That's going to be a problem. And if the city does flag me, I'd have to take that greenhouse down. So that is going to be a very big restriction. But, I could work with the space that I do have. I'm thinking in the future what I'm going to do is do some pre-treatment. So when winter comes around, do my fungicide treatment, get these plants ready before the rainy, wet season comes in to prevent the fungus. I still don't want to completely block off the plants from natural rain because many of these plants actually do very well with the winter rains. So the only downside I'm having right now really is the fungus. And of course I've got some plants that rot. Yes, sure. If I prevented those plants from getting water in the winter, then they wouldn't rot. But I think that plants that need special attention in the winter, I probably shouldn't be keeping them. It is unfortunately a way to kind of filter out the plants that Jenny cannot have. Because if you look at the Areocarpus, I always find that they really enjoy the winter rains. Yes, I did lose that one little Areocarpus, but for the most part, everybody else is nice and plump and seem to enjoy the winter. I mean, look at this. So I don't want to completely block off all the plants from getting winter rains because they actually benefit from them. But with anything, there's upsides and there's downsides. So here's another plant that was pretty heavily affected by the rust fungus. It's still there. I just can't tell if it's spreading or not. It probably is. I think at this point I'll probably continue treating it whenever I remember and then let the weather take care of it. And then next year I'll just have to be better about preparing for when the season comes again. Let me show you some more of those astrophytum. See, it's still there. Is it getting worse? On these ones, I don't know. And with challenges for growing like rust fungus, like the thrashers coming in and destroying stuff. A lot of people ask me, if you look at seedlings like this, it looks like a lot of plants. And people ask, what are you going to do with these? You know what? I need this many to help with yield. And the majority of these plants, to me, are not sellable. Because look at these. They all have scars on them. See, I can't sell that plant. That one's not looking great. You see all these Coquimbana? They all have scars all over them. And so really then, these cannot be sold. So, what would I do with all these? I'm just going to keep them. And over time, every year, I'm sure I'm going to be losing some. So by the time, 10, 20 years have passed, maybe there's only like a small fraction of these that will be left. And my goal for these plants is to try to get them to flowering age so that I can produce seeds. So that is actually my objective now. I am also trying to be a little bit more discerning on what plants that I purchase going forward with that thought in mind of wanting to propagate, the idea of propagation. And to propagate for what? I don't know. Just to have the seeds, I guess. So I didn't think that far ahead. But yeah, I'm seeing like this may look like a lot of plants, but actually it's not. Because if, let's say, one year something comes in and wipes out half of them, that's 50% gone right there. So I need this many just for higher chances of being able to get some of these into flowering age. Otherwise, besides the plants that are affected with fungus, yes, I lost some to rot, but for the most part, they're doing okay. Now let me show you my other source of feeling kind of down today. Sorry, it's pretty dark in here. This is my other reason for feeling kind of down today, actually for the past week or a bit more. You notice that Cookie has a little sensor here. This is a Freestyle Libre. My Cookie has come out of diabetic remission and she's diabetic again. And managing diabetes is extremely stressful. This sensor, if anybody is not familiar with it, it's actually monitoring her glucose readings constantly, and it attaches to an app on my phone, so I can monitor her glucose all the time. It's actually pretty cool, but Cookie's health problems actually started 2 years ago with diabetes. It just kind of snuck up and came out of nowhere, and we managed to get her into remission. I think within about a month or two. I think it took 2 months to get her into remission, but it was extremely stressful, and we didn't have this sensor last time. This sensor has gotten a lot smaller, actually, I think about a couple years ago, after she went into remission. It used to be a lot bigger, like that big, or the size of a quarter, I think. And so we were doing home monitoring with blood, blood testing, just like humans do. And with cats, you do it usually on their ear. Like you draw blood from the edge of their ear or from their paw pad, but I did it from the ear. And getting that down was extremely stressful. But this time around, we've got this sensor to help us out. But insulin is a very scary substance or hormone to manage, because how do you know what starting dosage to start with? And with Cookie, she seems to be fairly sensitive. So every time the vet prescribes a dose, Cookie usually needs less than that. And then she's had this for about, I think, 9 days now. Something like 9 days. Insulin is supposed to be given every 12 hours, but her body seems to respond on a non-12-hour cycle. It's longer than that. So by the time 12 hours comes by, you're expecting the glucose to come back up, and then you would shoot the insulin again and bring it back down. But like come 12 hours, she's actually at a fairly good low point. So then I would skip that shot. And it's just been all over the place. Sometimes I give her a shot and her glucose just like takes a nosedive. Sometimes I give her the same dose and it barely even does anything for like 7 hours, and it's been very difficult. And so I'm basically tied to her, watching this glucose monitor, seeing how she's doing, trying to determine if I should give insulin and how much to give. Should we skip? Just seeing the numbers, it's honestly, it's all by feel and by trial and error, because you have to figure it out until you realize and figure out how your cat responds to it. And I think it's exactly the same for humans too. So, the plants are doing, they're okay, but there's definitely losses. Then we've got Cookie with diabetes now. I'm still giving her subcutaneous fluids every 3 days, so there's a lot of needle poking. Yeah, so Jenny of Cookie's cacti is feeling a little bit down, but isn't that life? Some days are just down days. Well, I don't want to bring you all down with me. Let's try to cheer up a little bit. Maybe you and I, everybody, let's go find something good to eat. Take care, y'all. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. Let me show you an example of this glucose monitoring that I can see from my phone. So it's coming from that sensor, and then I can watch Cookie's glucose levels on my phone. So I freak out. You see there's like an arrow right there next to the number, and that arrow is flat right now because her numbers are moving, but not that fast. But sometimes that arrow can go diagonal up or down, or straight up and down, and it indicates how fast the glucose numbers are changing. And I freak out. Just like constantly watching this and freaking out. The system is pretty incredible, and it definitely helps keep, well, this is really it's a human monitor, but it helps keep people and animals safe when it comes to insulin, and always making sure that you're not going hypoglycemic, and then checking, if your insulin dose is right, and gives you a lot of feedback. And the sensor lasts for 14 days. I don't know. My dream is for Cookie to go into remission again, but we just don't know. And since I've got you here, this is when we started the sensor on February 15th. And look at that. She was like beyond what this chart could even register. So she was probably around 400 or so. And I gave her insulin and then watched those numbers drop. And then gave her insulin half the amount the second day, and it did that. We did a bounce. You can see her chart kind of changing over time. I think we're getting better, but it's still so darn stressful because it's not like just a given same dose every 12 hours. It's completely adjusted based off of where she's at. Oh man, wish us luck.